Shalom, today's Daf Yomi is Nedarim Daf Gimel, Nedarim 3. And we are going to start on top of Gimel Amid Aleph. We are having the merit to share this Daf and study this Daf from Catania, Sicily, on the occasion of the Hachnasa Sefer Torah, bringing a Torah scroll back to Catania for the first time since the expulsion from Spain in 1492. And what a merit to be studying Daf Yomi in this place and turning this city again into a makom of Torah, into a place of Torah. So the Gemara is discussing the question why sometimes a Mishnah's style will be that it will say halacha A, then halacha B, and then explain sometimes halacha B, and then sometimes halacha A. So the Gemara is explaining why our Mishnah over here in Nedarim went A, B, and then B, and then A. It's discussed the concept of kinoi, a neder, a nickname for neder, then discussed the concept of a yados for Nedarim, then discussed the concept of the fact that there's what's called a handle for Nedarim, that sometimes the exact neder is not said, just a abbreviated form of it, and both of them are valid. So the answer to this question, why sometimes the Mishnah does it as A, B, B, A, and sometimes A, B, A, B, is, according to the top of the Gemara, the answer we left off yesterday was Lav Davka, Zimnin Mefarish Ahu de Pasach Bereisha, Zimnin Ahu de Salach Mefarish Bereisha. Gemara says one of the approaches of the Gemara is it's not Lav Davka. There's no exact approach that it does it differently depending on who is editing that Mishnah or how that Mishnah is being edited. There's no specific rule. But then the Gemara gives another answer. The Gemara gives a second answer. The Gemara's answer is Yados Aidi de Asya Midrasha Mefarish Lahum Bereisha. That a yad, which is the idea that if you just say a shortened version of the neder, that it's going to be applicable. Since it's learned out from what's called a drasha, it's not exactly explicit in the Torah. It's an exposition of a verse from the Torah. Therefore, the Gemara is going to explain it first. And so therefore it says the halacha of kinoi neder, then it says the halacha of a yad neder. But then since yados are learned out from a drasha, yados are explained first. The Gemara says, well, if that's the case, liftach hadein bereisha. Well, if that's the case, that the yados are going to be explained first because they are learned out from a drasha, so then therefore our Mishnah should start with the law of yados to begin with, just like it explains the law of yados first. It should teach us the law of yados first. The Gemara says, "Biftach patach b'kinuyin dioraisa bereisha." The Gemara says, no, first it teaches us the law of kinuyin, which are biblical law, and then explains to us the laws of yados because it is a drasha. And that's the way the Gemara says. It's going to teach a literal biblical law first, and then explain the laws that are learned out from a drasha. The Gemara says, well, amar kinuyin lashon nachramhein. That only makes sense according to the dispute that we're going to learn that says a kinoi neder, i.e., something that's not exactly the word of a carbon alai, this oath is prohibited to me, but rather it's just something that was used by another language. It's a synonym in another language for the word carbon. That makes sense according to the one who says kinoi lashon nedarim hein, because then we're going to say that that's actually literal law written in the Torah. El lamanda amar lashon shabadu lahen chachamim lios nederbo. But according to the shita that says, according to the approach that says that a kinoi is not another word for an oath in a different language, but it's a word that the rabbis themselves established to say that this has the same value as an actual neder formula. So then if that's the case, it's a law of the Rabbanon and not a law of the Torah. So if that's the case, why are the law of the Kinuyim mentioned before the law of the Yados? If that's the case, Ma'iko Mimer, what's the reason why the laws of Kinuyim are mentioned before the laws of Yados? So the Gemara says, well, okay, let's start again. Mikatani Yados. Does our Mishnah ever even mention the law of Nados to begin with? It just mentions an explanation of Yados. But does it ever even mention the law of Yados to begin with? We already have established that we need to amend the text of the Mishnah. So if that's the case, since we're amending the text of the Mishnah, Aktim Nami Utani Yados. Okay, for that reason, let's let's just change the word yados and put it before kinoi in the Mishnah, and we'll read it like this: Kol yados k'nedarim, v'chol kinoi nedarim k'nedarim. We'll just change the text of the Mishnah and say every yad is like a neder, and every kinoi neder is like a neder. Ve'elu ein yados amar chavero. So basically, make the Mishnah A, B, and then A again, and these are the yados. These are the yados amar chavero. And then we go back to on the next Mishnah on Daf Yud. We're going to say these are the kinuyim, and examples of them are konem, konach, and konem. So basically, we'll amend the text of the Mishnah, and indeed we're in yados first. So now the Gemara says, okay, so now we said that yados are learned out from a drasha, that it's not explicit in the text. The Torah is just derived from an exposition. The yados heichak siv. Where are these laws of yados actually written in the Torah? So the Gemara answers they're written in the following place. It says in the pasuk, Ish ki aflu l'ndor neder nazir azir Hashem. If a man will take an oath to make a vow to Hashem, to become a Nazirite. V'tanya, we learned in the Brisa, what's the reason why the pasuk says Neder Nazir Hazir Hashem? Why does the pasuk say Neder Nazir to make a Hazir Hashem? It says in the Brisa Nazir Hazir Lasos Nizirus. So why does it say Nazir Hazir? It's to tell us that we can learn out all these laws of Nizirus, even if it comes just from a kinoi. Meaning, if you say Nazik, Naziach, or Paziach, these are as though you did an actual verse of a Nazir directly. So the Gemara says, Yados, and also what's the reason why it uses the double expression, and also to teach us Yados Naziros Kinesiros. So we learn out two things from the verse. We learn out the law of Kinoi Nazir, and we also learn out that Yados Naziros Kinesiros, this concept of a yad. Gemara says, Ainli Ela ben Naziros, I only know this law of Kinoi Nazir and Yad by Nazir with respect to the law of a Nazirite. Bin Nedarim Minayin, how do we know that this law also applies by vows, that there's yados by a vow, and also kinoim and yados by a vow? So the Gemara says, I'll tell you how I know. I tell Malomar Ish ki aflu l'ndor neder nazir lazir Hashem. It says in the verse, if somebody takes a vow to be a Nazirite, which means Makish naziros l'nedarim v'nedarim l'naziros. We compare naziros to vows, and vows to naziros. Ma naziros asabo yados naziros k'naziros. Just like when it comes to naziros, you make. Just like when it comes to naziros, we make the yad of a nazir like a nazir. So too, af nedarim. Also by yados nedarim k'nedarim. So too by a neder, we're going to make the vow of the yad of a neder like a neder. Uma nedarim over bebal yachel or bebal tacher. So that's what we learn out from a nazir to a neder. But what do we learn out from a neder to a nazir? Just like by a neder, you're going to be in violation of the prohibition of delaying your vow bal yachel ubal tacher. Do not be bal yachel, do not violate your vow, and do not delay your vow, just like we're going to be in violation of those laws by neder. Af naziros over bebal yachel or bebal tacher. So too by naziros, we're going to be in violation of bal yachel and bal tacher. Do not delay your Nazirite, and the Gemara is going to have to discuss how that's possible, and also do not violate your vow to be a Nazir. Uma nedarim, and also nedarim ha'av mefer nidre bito, just like by a neder, a father has the right to annul the vow of his daughter. Ubal mefer nidre ishto, and the husband has the right to annul the vow of his wife. Av naziros ha'av mefer naziros bito, ubal mefer naziros ishto. So too by naziros, the father has the right to annul the naziros of his daughter, and also the husband can annul the naziros of their wife. So Gemara asked the question, so that's what we learn out from a neder to a nazir. So Gemara says, and what is the reason why by naziros that we're going to say that the law is obvious, that the law of a yad of a nazir is like a nazir, because it says dechsiv nazir hazir. Well, why don't we learn it out directly from nedarim? But also by nedarim it says, but nedarim nami yaksiv lindor nezer. with Lindor Neder. It says the same double expression by Neder. So Vehekesha Lamali. Why do we need this double expression by a Nazir to learn? Why do we need to learn out Yados for Neder from a Nazir? We can learn it out directly from a Neder itself. The Gemara says, I Kasav Neder Lindor. If the Torah had written Neder Lindor instead of Lindor Neder, then I would have said, then it would have been like Kidachsiv Nazir Azir. Then just like it says Nazir Azir Kidakamers. Then I would have said, like you said, we could learn out Neder. We could have learned out from Lindor Neder the law of Yados, but V'lo Tzarich Hekesha, and we would not have needed to learn out law of Neder Yados from Nazir Yados. But Hashadachsiv Lindor Neder, but it doesn't say Neder Lindor. It says Lindor Neder, and so therefore we're going to say Dibra Torah Kolashim B'nei Adam. So maybe it wasn't written for a drush of Yados. Maybe the Torah is just speaking in the language of man. Dibra Torah Kolashim B'nei Adam. So the Gemara says, well, this is only good according to the position that there is this concept of the Torah sometimes speaks in the normal manner. Dibra Torah Kolashim B'nei Adam. What about according to the position that says the Torah doesn't just speak colloquially? Dibra Torah Kolashim B'nei Adam. According to that, Lindor Neder my Avile. According to that approach, the Torah already says Lindor Neder. So therefore, we can learn out. If we're not going to learn out Yados from that about Nedarim from that, what are we learning out from that position? So the Gemara says, well, we're going to use that word of Lindor Neder by Nedarim to teach us Dar Shlei Lasos Yados Nedarim Kinedarim. So indeed, this is teaching us that the laws of a Yad by a Neder is like an actual vow and it applies. Umakish Naziros Nedarim, and we learn from that Yad also works by a Nazir. So that's what we're running out from Lindor Neder. So if that's the case, so Gemara says, okay, you just reversed it. Hadra Kushya almost Laduchta, because instead of asking why does it need to say Lindor Neder by a Nazir, right? By a Neder to learn out the laws of Yados. Now we have the question, Nazir Lazir, why does it say it by a Nazirite? Why does it say this law of Yados by a Nazirite? So the Gemara says, meaning to say, if we learn out Yados of a Nazir from a Nader, why does it say Nazir Lazir by a Nazirite? So the Gemara says, the Gemara's answer is, Darashlei, it teaches us, Melamed and Nazirus, Chal Nazirus. It says Nazir Lazir to teach us that if you take a vow of a Nazirite, and you're already a Nazirite, if a person says, Hareini Nazirite Yom, he says, behold, I'll be a Nazirite today, and then he goes back and says again, Hareini Nazirite Yom, he says it twice, we don't say that he only has to wait 30 days, but we say that the vow of the Nazirite applies to an existing vow of a Nazirite, and so therefore we make him do 2 vows of Nazirite, so we count him to be 60 days, and he brings a carbon at the end of 30 days, and then he counts another 30 days and brings another carbon Nazirite, because it says Nazir Lazir. It means to say anybody who's already a Nazirite has to do 2 vows, and he takes it upon himself, he does a second Nazir vow. And according, says the Gemara, according to the Shita that says that the Torah speaks colloquially sometimes, and so therefore we're not going to learn the concept of Yados from Lindor Neder, because that's the normal way in which people speak. And if that's the case, Nazir Lazir, Darish, Lasos, Yados, Naziros Kinaziros, and they're learning out from the fact that it says Nazir Lazir, we're saying that the Yad of a Nazir is like a Nazir. If that's the case, and Naziros Chal, Naziros Minole, how do they know this concept that you could have 1 vow of Nazirite for 30 days, and then you say Hareini Nazir within that vow that you're going to be a second Nazirite for additional 30 days? The Gemara says, well, 1 second. Well, let's say, granted, it's not a problem according to the position that says there's no Naziros on Naziros, that you can't have such a concept. But if he does say that there is Naziros on Naziros, then how does he learn this concept if he's not going to learn out from Nazir Lazir? Because he's learning that out for Yados, to teach us Yados by Nazir and also Yados by Nedarim. Gemara says because we learn out from these words. Because Nemakra, the pasuk could have said Lizor. Could have said Lizor, and that would have taught us the law of Yados by itself. But my Lahazir, why does it say Nazir Lahazir? To teach us Shmat Mina Tarti. We learn from here 2 things. We learn from here that the yad of a nazir is like a nazir, and we also learn from here that nazirus is chal on nazirus, that you could have two naziros. Gemara says, so according to this position of Dibra Torah Kol Hashem B'nei Adam, the Gemara is going to say there's another approach to explain what we learn. How we learn out that there's nazirus chal al nazirus. The Marava Amri in Eretz Yisrael, they taught that. And it's interesting that the Yerushalmi is a little different here. But here, our Gemara says, B'marava Amri is Tana Demapik Leilu Yados. There's one approach that says that we learn out from this idea of Lindor Neder, they learn out for Yados. Min Lindor Neder. The Istana Demapik Leilu, and there's another Tana that learns out the law of Yados, not from Lindor Neder. And that's a Tana, by the way, that doesn't say Dibra Torah Kol Hashem B'nei Adam. And so therefore they can learn out Yados from Lindor Neder. And Nazir Lazir is back to teach us this concept of Nazirus Chalal Nazirus. But there's another Tana, Demapikle Min Kechol Yotzei Mi Piv Yaseh, who earns out the law of Yados by Neder from the fact that it says in the verse Kechol Yotzei Mi Piv Yaseh, which means anything that comes out of his mouth is going to be considered a Neder, even if it's just an abbreviated version, even though it's a Yad. So the Gemara says, okay, so now let's go back to the brisa that we were discussing. Amar Maruma Nedarim over B'Bal Yachel U'Bal Ta'acher. We had said in the brisa that just like by a neder, you're going to be in violation of not violating the vow and not delaying the vow, and so too it's going to apply by a Nazirite. So the Gemara says, Bish Shlama Bal Yachel Nedarim Meshkachas. I understand how you're going to have a violation of the neder Bal Yachel by a neder. That's so obvious. Could go into Amar. If a person says Kikar Zu Ochel, he says he takes an oath that he takes a vow he's going to eat this loaf of bread, V'lo Achal, and he doesn't eat it. Now that itself is a question, because that seems to be like it's a violation of a positive commandment, and so therefore some people change the gears of it. Rabbi Akiva Eger is very bothered by that, but we'll leave that for another time. So there you're going to be in violation of Bayachel Tvaro. Ela Bayachel de Naziros Hechem Mishkachasla. How do you have a violation of the vow of being a Nazir where you're going to have Bayachel by a Nazirite? So the Gemara says, Kivin da Amar, if a person says, Hareini Nazir, Havale Nazir. And so I'll tell you how you violate the vow of a Nazirite. Once you say, behold, I'm a Nazirite, then you're a Nazirite. Achal Kamwe Bibal Yochal. Then he gets up and he eats a grape product. He's in violation of do not eat a grape product. Hold on. Shasa, he then drinks something. He drinks wine. Kamle bebal yishta, and he's in violation of do not drink. And so therefore, then he's going to be in violation of bal yochal and bal yishta. So therefore, how is he going to be in violation of violating the vow, that he's only violating Bal Yachel and he's not violating any other vow? Rava says, yeah, you're going to be in violation of multiple vows as a Nazir. It's not just Bal Yachel. You're going to Lavarla Vishnayim. We want to say, how are you going to be in violation by a Nazirite? The Bryce is saying us, you're not only going to be in violation of the laws of a Nazirite, you're also in violation of the vow that you took upon yourself to be a Nazirite. For instance, well, now we have another question. Baal ta'acher de Nazirus. How are you going to be in violation of the vow of a Nazirite, of the prohibition of not delaying your vow to be a Nazirite? Heichem mishkachasla. Kimin amar hareini Nazir. Havele Nazir. How can you delay it? Once you said, behold, I'm a Nazirite, then indeed you're a Nazirite. Achal kamle bebal yochal, and then you're in violation of a Nazirite. How could there ever be a situation where you've delayed the vow of being a Nazirite? So the Gemara says, okay, be'omer l'kisha eretzeh nazir. If